Hey, what up YouTube? It's me again with another video, another two videos actually. This is going to be a two-part effort, and we're going to be finally looking at the Ricoh GR3 and the GR3X compared to other cameras and lenses, and we're going to find out, will it portrait? Will the GR3X with the 14mm equivalent lens give good portrait shots with subject isolation and bokeh? Now, these lenses I'm showing here are vintage, hence the black and white. You like what I did there? Yeah, a lot of these are vintage lenses, and this is a manual lens I'm looking at here. This is a Samyang 85mm 1.4, classic size for a portrait lens. But can we do portraits with a GR3X? We're going to find out. Some of these lenses I'm looking at here, which I will demonstrate, they are as old as 60 years old. There are a couple of Pentaxes that are very old Canon, and I'm going to show you the setup in a second, and we'll compare the shots later that I've transferred to this computer and stored in some folders. So yeah, let's take a look at the setup. Now you have to vary the distance. Here you can see I've got the Samyang 85mm on a tripod on the Sony a7 II, and I'm about between 2 and 2.5 meters away from the subject. Now the subject is this guy. This is poor old Fred, who smoked in bed. I don't want to show friends and family live on YouTube. So this is going to be our subject, Fred. Here you can see just how close you have to get with the Ricoh GR3X to fill the frame in a similar manner. So it's no longer like 10 feet away that you can do with a larger lens, but it's a lot closer, sometimes uncomfortably close. So what type of shots are we looking at? Well, there are variations of portraits. There are headshot portraits like these. Just searching on your net, on the net, you'll get an idea of what we're talking about here. But these are like typical portraits, headshot portraits, portraits with the shoulders and torso in. And these give you an idea of how to frame the image and how close you're going to have to get. And it can be a little bit uncomfortably close if you want to create some background blur and some isolation when you're using a Ricoh GR3. So you've got all these type of portraits here. Candid portraits are usually portraits where the subject doesn't know you're taking a picture of them, and that can be close up or from a distance. And this is where candid photography starts to border onto Ricoh's really strong point, which is street photography. And then there are other types of portraits, like environmental portraits, which are these here. Now, an environmental portrait wants some sharpness and not just a totally blurred out background, because you're trying to show what the person is doing and you're trying to tell a story. So that's what we're going to look at now. We're going to look at the results of the vintage lenses first, and we'll see just what the Ricoh has to compete with. Okay, so now it's time to look at the results. Now I've saved the images on my desktop, and I've organized everything into folders. So here we've got the GR3 and the GR3X. This app, by the way, is called XMView MP. MP means multi-platform. So this is free and available to Linux, Mac and Windows. And it's quite a good app. It's a little bit quirky sometimes, but it's good for quickly viewing files. It can even view raw files, and it's very fast. Okay, so I'm going to start out with one of my favorite lenses, the Takumar, and these are the images it produced. Now down here you with an automatic or electronic lens, a modern lens with autofocus, etc., you would get some information about the lens down here. But here you can see, because it's a manual vintage lens, it wasn't telling the camera anything. So we got 0mm and f00, but it does tell you what the camera was doing. ISO 100 and 1/60th of a second. So this was the A7 II with the Pentax Takumar 50mm f1.4, shot wide open at f1.4. So now we're going to see what some bokeh looks like. So you can see I shot it in landscape mode, and with this tool I can zoom in by pressing this one here, or I can look at it at 100% zoom. Down here you can see we have this little box showing you which area of the whole image we are looking at. So we've got the coin in focus, and you can see at f1.4 already the teeth here and the back of the head are out of focus. That means that this is a very shallow depth of field centered around this coin. Luckily I hit focus there. You might not do it every time, but the camera will help you. So don't be afraid of vintage lenses. Okay, so that's that one. I'm going to zoom out again, and we're going to look at this bokeh in the background. Now this is real bokeh. You can see that. Nice subject isolation, but where you can see situations with lots of lines, you do tend to get a quite busy bokeh. Zoom in a little more on that. You can see this bokeh's kind of got swirly stuff in it. Now the idea of the lens back then, this lens might be 60 years old. I'm not sure. Look it up on the net. Pentax SMC Takumar 50 1.4. There will be various versions. You can get a version 1 and a version 2, and sometimes they can change the number of elements in the lens. But I don't think they were concentrating too much on the quality of bokeh back then. They just wanted a lens that was fast and would let a lot of light in and give you good subject isolation. These days, the quality of the bokeh is almost as important as the actual ability to create bokeh and create subject isolation. So a lens like a Sumilux, or like a Sumilux or a Zeiss Sonar, will give you a bokeh that is a little more pleasing, but you won't get those for $50. Okay, so that's the Pentax Takumar. So go back to the browser here, take another look at the Pentax M. Here again, no information about the lens here, but I know that this is a 50mm f1.7. I only took one shot with that one. Similar story, lots of contrast, nice colours, strong colours, beautiful shallow depth of field, plenty of bokeh, but again, in areas where there is lots going on in the background, you're getting some swirly, nervous-looking bokeh. So might not be the prettiest, and in that case, you would probably want to do something with the background if you really wanted a smooth background in it. Okay, so looking now at the Sony RX1R, this is the camera with the fixed lens. So here we are getting lens information from that camera. 35mm f2. It shot it at 320 ISO for this one, 400 ISO for this one, 1/80th of a second. So let's take the brighter one here, and there we have a nice image. And as you can see with all of these images, I'm trying to frame them so that you would get the head and torso of a human subject in this image. So this is a good size, a good framing for a portrait shot, a standard portrait. And if we zoom in at 100%, I can see right on the corner of this square metal structure around this vase, we've got it's out of focus there, and then it gets in focus here, and then it starts to go out of focus again here. So we've got a very shallow depth of field on this. Let's just move this mapping square up and see, have we hit focus? Yes, indeed we have. The Sony RX1R did a good job there. We got the front of the skull and the coin in focus there, and then we got this background blur. Now this is a little more relaxed. This is an excellent lens. It's very, very sharp, edge to edge, and in the center it is the Zeiss Sonar. It's a 35mm f2.0, goes all the way up to f22, and you can see it's a little more relaxed bokeh. Good subject isolation. It helps that it's on a full frame, of course, so that's looking pretty good. So let's move on from that one. Now we'll take a look at a modern lens here. This is a Samyang 45. Again, this is an autofocus electronic lens, 45mm f1.8, 200 ISO. It's letting in a lot of light. 1/80th of a second. So take a look at that one. And yeah, a nice bokeh again. It's quite a bit smoother than the vintage Takamars. Let's get some doubling up on some of the lines here. This object down here is similar to this one, but the inner cylinder is black metal. But you can see the supporting square lines, the metal structure around the outside is pretty much obliterated in the blurred background and the bokeh there. So quite nice. I like it. Yeah, pretty good shot. Moving on, we've seen the M. Let's have a look at now at another modern lens. This is really modern glass now, a Samyang 85mm f1.4. You can see down here it's a manual lens. We're not getting that lens information across, but we are getting good results here. Now I had to change the angle here because with a 50mm I was about 5 feet or maybe 1.5 meters away from the subject. With the 35 I had to move a little bit closer to get a similar framing, but with the 85 I had to move quite a bit back. Okay, this is an 85mm on a full frame sensor on a Sony A7 II, and if we go to zoom in here, we've got the eye area in focus. This is all nice and sharp here, already out of focus on the teeth. And let's just move this around so we see this edge over here. Yeah, we got focus around here also, but at the teeth area and down, let's take a look at this. Out of focus at the front of that square, and this square is quite small. Sharp here towards the back. So again, very narrow depth of field. And if we zoom out, we'll look, check bokeh out there. Nice and smooth on the more organic surfaces. This is a wicker basket, and this is a big green indoor plant. And you can see it gets a little bit nervous in the bokeh down there, but not too bad. Overall, a nice image, good colours, lots of contrast. We've got some blown out whites up here at the window all the way to a nice solid black down here. So lots of tones in this lens, beautiful. Let's move on to something else now. We've covered these. Now one of my favourites is this one. This is the Canon, the 135mm f2.5. Again, no information from the lens because it's about 45 years old. So we're not getting anything there. Let's just check if I hit focus. I do not believe I did. Nope. Oops. Let's move this box up a little bit. We look at the coin. I didn't get focused there. So let's find out where focus is. Looks like it's right out front on the teeth. If we look at the metal structure underneath, yeah. So we've hit focus right about here on the very front of this ornament here, and it goes very quickly from focus to out of focus already here in just a space of a few centimeters. So yeah, very, very shallow depth of field on this lens, and I had to really get quite far back to get this image in. I was almost 3 meters away from this, and it is a 135mm lens. So that's one of the benefits of a lens this size, is that you can actually step right back from your subject so you're not all up in the face. The bokeh is very smooth in the organic areas. We got a little bit of busy nervousness going on down here with the light coming through that loosely woven wicker basket, but on the whole it looks pretty good. Like I say, heavy lens to carry around with you, but it's also a cracking lens, it is. And if I just take a look at the other ones from that folder, here I give you a little treat here and zoom right in. This would be the equivalent of doing a headshot. And just look at it now. I think I actually hit focus on that. Yeah, more or less. I think the focus looks sharpest around here, maybe 1 centimeter in front of the coin. Nice and sharp there, but beautiful fall off in the background, plenty of contrast. Being this close to it, you're not going to get any, we're not seeing any light coming in through the trees and through the window there, so there's nothing blown out, but we do still have a nice deep set of colors on it, and it's great. So that now brings us to the 2 GR folders. Here and here we have the GR3 and the GR3X. So let's take a look at those.